Before we get to the story, I'd like to say thanks so much for visiting my new channel. I'm going to be uploading cosmic horror related stories every single day. So if that sounds good, please drop a like and don't forget to subscribe. It means a lot, especially when just getting started. I hope you enjoy the story. I work with dead things. Have for 15 years now. Fossils, bones, the remains of creatures that haven't walked this earth for millions of years. Trilobites that scuttled across ancient ocean floors. Dinosaurs that shook the ground with every step. Mammals that ruled continents that don't exist anymore. I always found it peaceful, working with the dead. They don't ask questions. They don't expect anything from you. They're just gone. And I'm the one who makes them presentable for the living to look at. I clean them, preserve them, mount them on displays where school children can press their faces against the glass and imagine worlds that ended long before humanity was a spark in evolution's eye. I never expected the dead to have something to say. I never expected to find a message written in mass graves spanning geological ages. My name is Nash Cotter. I'm a fossil preparator at the Braddock Museum of Natural History. Not a scientist, not a paleontologist, just a technician with steady hands and a lot of patience. I dropped out of college 20 years ago, bounced around various jobs that never quite fit, and eventually landed in the basement of this museum, surrounded by the bones of things that died before the mountains were born. It suited me. After my marriage fell apart, after everyone I cared about drifted away, the silence of the workrooms felt like home. Just me and the fossils, hour after hour, day after day, reconstructing the dead and asking nothing of the living. 6 months ago, one of the museum's paleontologists disappeared. Dr. Elaine Murdoch had worked at Braddock for almost a decade. She was brilliant, driven, the kind of researcher who spent more time in the archives than in her apartment. I didn't know her well, just enough to nod hello in the hallways, but I respected her work. One day, she just didn't show up. No explanation, no note. Her car was still in the parking lot. Her apartment was untouched. She simply vanished, like she'd stepped out of existence between one moment and the next. The police investigated, found nothing. The case went cold within a month. Murdoch left behind dozens of boxes of research materials, papers, field notes, specimen catalogs, photographs, journals. All of it got packed up and stored in one of the basement rooms, waiting for someone to sort through it. That someone turned out to be me. My supervisor, Colton Fry, gave me the assignment on a Tuesday morning. Colton's been at the museum for 35 years, knows every corner of this place, every skeleton in every closet. He's a quiet man, keeps to himself, but I've always trusted his judgment. When he told me to organize Murdoch's materials, his hands were shaking. Just catalog everything, he said. Sort it, label it, prepare it for the archives. Standard procedure. I asked if there was anything I should know, anything unusual about the collection. Colton wouldn't meet my eyes. Just do the job, he said, and don't spend too much time reading. I should have listened to him. The first few boxes were exactly what I expected. Research papers on Permian marine fauna, field notes from excavations in Montana and Argentina, specimen catalogs meticulously cross-referenced and organized. The work of a careful, methodical scientist. Then I found the journal. It was in a box by itself, buried under a stack of photocopied articles. A leather-bound notebook, the kind you buy at fancy stationery stores, filled with handwriting that started neat and precise and gradually devolved into something frantic, almost unreadable. I opened it to a random page and saw a diagram I didn't understand, lines connecting 5 points, each labeled with a name: Ordovician, Devonian, Permian, Triassic, Cretaceous. The 5 major mass extinction events in Earth's history. I knew them vaguely. Everyone who works in a natural history museum knows the broad strokes. The Ordovician extinction killed 85% of marine species. The Devonian wiped out most fish. The Permian, the Great Dying, eliminated 96% of all life on Earth. The Triassic cleared the way for dinosaurs. The Cretaceous, the famous one, ended with an asteroid and took the dinosaurs with it. Scientists have explanations for all of them: volcanic eruptions, climate shifts, asteroid impacts, ocean chemistry changes, natural disasters on an unimaginable scale. Murdoch had drawn lines connecting them all, and at the center of the diagram, she'd written 2 words in letters so large they took up half the page: "It's talking." I read the whole journal that night, couldn't stop, couldn't look away. What I found in those pages changed everything I thought I knew about the world. Murdoch had spent years studying mass extinction events, but she wasn't interested in what killed the organisms. She was interested in what survived. In every extinction event, some species die and some live. That's how it works. Scientists explain the survival patterns through fitness, adaptation, luck. The organisms that happened to have the right traits made it through. The ones that didn't. Murdoch found something else. A pattern in the survival data that couldn't be explained by natural selection. The specific combination of species that survived each extinction event wasn't random. It wasn't based on fitness or adaptation or any biological principle. It was too precise, too organized, like someone had chosen exactly which species would live and which would die, like a code. She spent 3 years analyzing the data, cross-referencing fossil records from sites around the world, building statistical models that accounted for every known variable. The pattern held every time, across every extinction event. The survival and death of millions of species encoded in the fossil record like binary data written in bone. Each extinction event carrying information, meaning, message. The extinctions weren't catastrophes, Murdoch concluded. They were communications. I wanted to believe she was crazy. It would have been easier if she was crazy, but her data was meticulous. Her methodology was flawless. I spent 3 days checking her work, looking for errors, looking for the flaw that would let me dismiss everything she'd found. There was no flaw. The pattern was real, and the pattern meant something. I made the mistake of mentioning Murdoch's research to Colton. I thought maybe he could explain it, put it in context, help me understand what she'd been working on. His reaction was immediate and severe. "Stop reading that," he said. His voice was sharp in a way I'd never heard from him. "Don't look at it anymore. Just catalog the boxes and move on." I asked why. "Because I'm telling you to." I pushed. I shouldn't have, but I did. Colton was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Elaine figured something out. something she shouldn't have. She got too close to something, and then she was gone. He looked at me with fear in his eyes. Real fear. The kind that comes from knowing something terrible. Don't make the same mistake she did, Nash. Some patterns aren't meant to be seen. I ignored his warning. I kept reading. Murdoch had gone further than just identifying the pattern. She'd started to decode it. Not completely. The code was too complex. The data too incomplete. Hundreds of millions of years of fossil records, fragmented and scattered across the globe. But she'd managed to translate pieces, fragments, enough to understand the shape of what was being communicated. The messages weren't meant for us. They weren't warnings or greetings or invitations. They weren't addressed to humanity at all. They were a conversation. Something was talking to something else, using Earth's biosphere as the medium. Each extinction event was a transmission. The death of millions of species was just the cost of sending a single word. I had to stop reading for a while after I understood that. I sat in the basement workroom surrounded by boxes of bones, and I thought about every fossil I'd ever cleaned, every specimen I'd ever prepared. All those dead things, all those extinctions, not tragedies, not disasters, sentences. Murdoch had mapped out the timing of the extinction events. They weren't evenly spaced, but they followed a rhythm, a pattern that suggested intent, not randomness, like someone speaking in sentences with pauses between thoughts. The Ordovician extinction, 445 million years ago, was one message. The Devonian, 375 million years ago, was a response. The Permian, 252 million years ago, the Great Dying, when almost everything on Earth was wiped out, was something big, emphatic, important. The conversation had been going on for nearly 500 million years, and it wasn't over. Murdoch theorized about what was communicating. Her notes became more speculative near the end, more philosophical. But the picture she painted was consistent. Not aliens, not in any conventional sense. Something that existed on scales we couldn't perceive. Entities so vast that planets were just cells to them. Timescales so long that millions of years were like seconds. They didn't communicate through sound or light or radio waves. They communicated through the reshaping of entire biospheres, through the patterns of life and death across geological ages, through extinction. I started spending my nights at the museum. Couldn't sleep anyway, not after what I'd learned. I'd wander the fossil halls after closing, looking at the displays with new eyes. That's how I got to know Bess Halliday. Bess worked night security, had for over 40 years. She was in her 70s now, moved slow, but saw everything. The other guards were usually plugged into their phones or half asleep, but Bess walked her rounds with the focus of someone who took the job seriously. One night, she found me sitting on a bench in front of the Permian Marine exhibit, staring at a diorama of ancient ocean life. "You've been reading Elaine's notes," she said. Not a question. I asked how she knew. "Because you've got that look, the same look she had before she disappeared, the same look they all had." I asked what she meant by "they all." Bess sat down next to me. Her eyes were fixed on the diorama, on the fossil fish and ancient corals, all of them representing species that died 252 million years ago. "Elaine wasn't the first to figure it out," Bess said. "Over the years, there have been others. Researchers who noticed the pattern started asking questions. I've seen maybe half a dozen in my time here. What happened to them? Same thing that happened to Elaine. They dig too deep, learn too much, and then one day they're just gone. Nobody knows where. Nobody finds out. She looked at me. The bones tell stories, Nash. Most people can't read them. The ones who can, they don't last long. I asked her if she believed it, the pattern, the messages, the entities. Bess was quiet for a long time. I've worked in this museum for 40 years, she finally said. I've seen things in these halls at night that I can't explain. Shadows that move wrong, sounds that don't have sources. Sometimes I look at the fossils and I feel like they're looking back. She shook her head slowly. I don't know what I believe, but I know something's wrong with this place. Something's been wrong for a very long time. After that conversation, I went back to Murdoch's notes with a new focus. I'd been asking the wrong question. I'd been wondering what was sending the messages. But every conversation has two sides. Something was listening. Something was responding. Murdoch had found evidence of that too. The extinction events on Earth were just one half of the exchange. Somewhere else in the universe, other biospheres were experiencing their own extinctions. Other planets full of life were being wiped clean to send replies. A cosmic conversation conducted in apocalypses. I tried to wrap my mind around the scale of it. Entities so large they used entire planets as notepads. Conversations so slow they spanned hundreds of millions of years. And Earth, all of life, all of evolution and history and humanity, was just a single page, being written on and erased and written on again, over and over for billions of years. We think we're special. We think the universe cares about us, that our existence matters, that the story of life on Earth is somehow significant. But to these entities, we're nothing, less than nothing. We're the medium, not the message, the paper, not the words. And paper doesn't get a say in what's written on it. Murdoch's notes became more fragmented near the end, harder to follow. Her handwriting deteriorated, her thoughts scattered across pages in ways that it didn't always connect. But I pieced together what she believed. The entities were discussing something specific, negotiating, or maybe arguing. She used the word disagreement several times, and the word resolution. She thought they were approaching the end of their discussion. After nearly 500 million years of back and forth, they were reaching a conclusion. And conclusions require statements, big ones, final ones. In her final journal entries, Murdoch made a prediction. Based on the rhythm of the extinctions, the pattern of the conversation, she calculated when the next message would be sent. Not millions of years from now, not even thousands. Soon. Within her lifetime, she wrote. Probably within years. The entities were about to speak again, and whatever they were going to say would cost most of the life on this planet. An extinction event wasn't coming as a random disaster. It was coming as a word, a single word in a conversation that had been going on since before complex life existed on Earth. I found evidence that Murdoch tried to warn people. Letters to government agencies, emails to scientific organizations, attempts to contact anyone who might listen, anyone who might be able to do something. No one believed her. How could they? It sounds insane. Mass extinctions as cosmic communication, entities that exist on scales beyond human comprehension, the imminent death of most life on Earth as an act of speech. If someone had told me all this 2 weeks ago, I would have smiled politely and backed away slowly. But I've seen the data. I've read the patterns. I've traced the logic from observation to conclusion. She wasn't crazy. She was right. Murdoch's last journal entry was dated the day before she disappeared. "They know I know," she wrote. "I can feel attention turning towards me, something vast and cold and completely indifferent to my existence. The conversation must not be interrupted. The message must be sent. I understand now what happens to people who try to interfere. We are nothing to them, less than nothing. They don't hate us or fear us or even notice us. We're just the medium. And when the medium becomes inconvenient, it's removed." The entry ended with a single line. "I'm sorry I couldn't stop it." I looked at the date she predicted for the next extinction event, 18 months from now, less than 2 years before. Something wipes out most of the life on this planet, not as a catastrophe, not as a random disaster, as a word. A single word in a conversation that's been going on since before life on Earth even existed. I understand now why Murdoch disappeared, why everyone who figures this out disappears. The conversation cannot be interrupted. The message must be sent. Whatever these entities are, they don't notice us any more than we notice the bacteria living in our gut. But they notice interference. They notice when something disrupts the transmission, and they remove the disruption. I can feel it now. The attention Murdoch described. Something vast and cold turning its focus toward me. Not malevolent, not hostile, just aware in some distant and terrible way that I exist and that I know things I'm not supposed to know. I'm not afraid of dying. I accepted a long time ago that my life was never going to amount to much. I've got no family, no legacy, nothing that will outlast me. When I'm gone, I'll be forgotten within a generation. But I'm afraid of what comes next. Not for me, for everyone. In 18 months, the entity will speak again. It will write its message in mass death, just like it has 5 times before. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, the volcanic eruptions that caused the Great Dying, the climate shifts that ended the Ordovician. All of them were just words, and the next word is coming. I don't know what it will be. An asteroid maybe, a supervolcanic eruption, some catastrophe we can't even imagine yet. It doesn't matter. The method is irrelevant. What matters is the result. Millions of species wiped out in a precise pattern that encodes information. Billions of individual organisms dead so that something can send a message. And there's nothing anyone can do to stop it. We're not participants in this conversation. We're not even the audience. We're just the paper, the medium, the raw material from which meaning is constructed. And paper doesn't get to object when the pen touches the page. I've been at the museum for 3 days straight now. Haven't gone home. Haven't slept more than an hour or 2 at a time. I've been going through Murdoch's notes, trying to understand everything she learned, trying to see if there's anything that might help. There isn't. She was thorough. She explored every angle, every possibility, every hope of intervention or prevention. None of them work. The entities operate on scales we can't affect. We could detonate every nuclear weapon on Earth and they wouldn't notice. We could achieve world peace and cure every disease and colonize 100 planets, and we'd still be nothing more than marks on a page. When they're ready to write the next word, they'll write it, and most of us will die. I spoke to Bess again last night, told her everything I'd learned, showed her the date Murdoch had calculated. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. I always knew something was coming, she finally said. Felt it in my bones. Felt it in the bones all around us. She gestured at the museum, at the millions of fossils stored in these walls. All those dead things, all that death, stacked up over billions of years. It never felt random to me. It felt like something, a shape, a story. She looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. I guess now we know what story it's telling. I'm writing this because I want someone to know. I probably won't be around much longer. I can feel the attention getting closer, the awareness sharpening. Murdoch lasted one day after her final journal entry. I don't expect to do much better, but maybe this will survive. Maybe someone will read it. Maybe it will help someone understand what's coming, even if they can't stop it. The extinctions aren't over. The conversation isn't finished. Something is about to say something, and saying it will cost most of the life on Earth. Look at the fossil record. Visit your local natural history museum. Look at the bones of all those dead things, the trilobites and dinosaurs and mammoths and everything in between. The dead have been trying to tell us something for hundreds of millions of years. We just didn't know how to listen. Now we do. And it's too late to do anything but wait for the next word to be spoken. We've been living in the pause between words, the silence between sentences. For 66 million years, ever since the asteroid hit and the dinosaurs died and the Cretaceous ended, there's been quiet. The entities stopped speaking. The conversation paused. We thought the silence was normal. We thought it was peace. It was just a held breath. And now the breath is about to be released. I don't know who's listening to this conversation. I don't know what they're talking about or why. I don't know what the next word will mean to them. I just know what it will mean to us. Death on a scale we can't imagine. An extinction event to rival the Great Dying. Most species on Earth gone. Most of humanity probably, along with them. Not because something hates us, not because we did anything wrong, just because something has something to say, and we're the ink it writes with. I can hear something now, not with my ears, deeper than that. A vibration in the bones all around me, all those fossils, all those dead things, resonating with something I can't quite perceive. They're getting ready. The pen is touching the page. I hope someone reads this. I hope someone understands. I hope that when the next extinction comes, when the word is finally spoken, at least a few people will know what's really happening. Not that it will help, but maybe in the ruins, someone will remember. Someone will know that we were part of something larger, something terrible, something that didn't care about us at all. This document was discovered on a computer terminal in the basement of the Braddock Museum of Natural History. The terminal was found running in an empty workroom. there was no sign of the user. Museum records indicate that an employee named Nash Cotter was assigned to organize archived materials in that area. He has not reported for work in 3 days. His apartment shows no sign of disturbance. His car was found in the museum parking lot. The archived materials he was cataloging have been removed from the museum. Their current location is classified. Dr. Elaine Murdoch, referenced in the document, remains missing after 6 months. Her case has been closed. This document has been flagged for review by several government agencies. Its distribution has been restricted, pending further analysis. Geological surveys conducted over the past decade have noted unusual seismic activity in several regions worldwide. The activity does not match any known pattern of tectonic movement. Climate models have detected anomalies that current science cannot explain. Atmospheric measurements show trace compounds that have not been identified. No official statements have been made regarding these findings. The museum has resumed normal operations. The fossil halls are open to the public. Children still press their faces against the glass, looking at the bones of things that died millions of years ago. The bones are quiet, for now.